Hi, I'm Rusty Komori, and this is Beyond the Lines on ThinkTech Hawaii. I was the head coach of the Punahou boys varsity tennis team for 22 years, and we were fortunate to win 22 consecutive state championships. My books, Beyond the Lines and Beyond the Game, are about leadership, character, and creating a superior culture of excellence, which is what this show is all about. My special guest today has won an Emmy Award, is the winner of the Great Food Truck Race, and TV host of Cooking Hawaiian Style. He is Lanai Tabura, and today we are going beyond hosting and producing. Hey, Lanai, welcome to Beyond the Lines.
How's it going, Rusty? Thank you so much for having me, man. What an
Lanai,
honor.
you've done so many things in your life, and you continue to do so many things. It's absolutely impressive, and you're the only person that I know that's grown up on Lanai. And can you tell me about some of the challenges that you had growing up as a young boy?
Yeah, you have a love-hate relationship with growing up there because we didn't have anything, but it was also a blessing in disguise. As you get older, you realize what those blessings are, right? Growing up with a single parent, my mother raised four boys, and we were very poor. Um, we were lucky enough to have great grandparents to teach us how to garden and fish. So we really ate off the land, and we learned how to garden at a young age. So we had to really be creative, I guess would be the best word, because we didn't have fast food, and even if we had fast food, we didn't have the money to pay for it. So we grew up like welfare, and whatever we could get from the garden and the ocean is really what we um, got involved with, and that's how my brothers all became cooks and chefs, and really learned how to live off the land. But it was also the bright spot of it was we all became athletes. We chose the route of training and trying to get the best for ourselves so we could get a better education when we got out of high school. So those are the bright spots. Growing up on such a great island too, it's beautiful. When when you're that age, you don't really uh, grasp that. But as you get older, like I said, you start understanding what you had and what you have. And Lanai is such a beautiful place to grow up. I wouldn't change it for the world. And I wouldn't change the way it happened for the world because I think it really made me and my brothers who we are today. We're grinders. We just hustle and we love to work. We don't have any fear of trying new things. And it was really my mom that instilled that. My mom is an amazing lady till today. She's always taken in runaway kids, helped people who have family issues. She was like a counselor, that never went to school for it. She just had it in her blood, and she gave it to all of us, and she taught us how to take care of people. And that's really what we do. We Everything that we do is about how can we take care of people or make people better. You know.
Oh, I like hearing that about your mom, and I know that your grandfather had a big influence on you. If you can tell me what kind of person he was, and if you can share a impactful story about him.
I think the best way to explain my grandfather was Mr. Miyagi. He was Mr. Miyagi. He didn't have a high school education. Um, he was an amazing man when it came to math, which is weird because all of us are terrible at math. He was a welder, and the way he spoke was the most broken pidgin English you've ever heard in your life, and everything had a meaning when he spoke. There was no wasted words with him because he didn't have that many words. He was a philosopher. He was very funny. He was very comedic, and I think that's where we got our sense of humor from. When you grow up like we did, you have to have a sense of humor. But one story that sticks out the most is we were struggling, and then we played sports, and I had a prom coming up, and my mother worked three jobs, and at 14 I started working, but it just wasn't enough. And pulled me out to the garden one day, and I had to help him at a young age, and it was cabbage. We were growing cabbage, and he was teaching me as I was doing this. When you're young, everything's like, oh man, I gotta do this. You can't go to the beach until you help me for an hour in the garden. So I would help him with the cabbage, and a couple months went by, and 3, 4 months goes by, and you're out there every day, gardening and weeding and taking care of this cabbage. And then he calls me one day to, let's go harvest. So we start harvesting, and we put it in a bunch of rice bags. And he takes me to the store, and he teaches me my first gig on how to hustle. And I didn't realize he was teaching me, but um, I went and sold the cabbage to the store, and I came back and I had all this money, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we we did all this work, but we got all this money now. What are we going to do with the money?" And he gave it to me to pay for a prom and to pay for a trip that I had to go on for sports. Because you live on a little island, you don't have the fundraising capabilities as other schools have, so you really had to do a lot of fundraising. And if you wanted to play, you had to pay to get on a plane because there's no other school to challenge. You had to fly to Maui and Molokai, and you had to come to to Oahu. So we were constantly trying to raise money. So he really taught me how to grow cabbage, and he never told me what the money was for until that time came to pay for these bills. And that's when I really learned about working and getting dirty, and the payoff, the return on investment is what I learned. The hard work gets you this. And he did a lot of those different things like that. That was just one story. But I always remember that one for some reason. Because just cabbage is associated with money. You know what I mean? Like I gotta make that cabbage. So I guess that's why I associate it with money.
So was the prom good, Lanai?
It was awesome. I ended up going to like 5 or 6 proms that I forgot I went to. Yeah, but it was cool. He was just a smart man, and didn't never he never uh he always shared and taught you by example. He always shared and taught you by doing things. He never told you what it was for. You know what I mean? He wanted you to learn the process.
I like hearing that, learning the hard way. And Lanai, you
Tough
how
love.
did you first get interested in radio?
Oh man, I was in high school, and I didn't watch a lot of television. We had what, 4 channels, and we didn't really have a good TV. So I listened to the radio a lot. I love music, and I met a guy by the name of Chantil Don Sweeney. He's a iconic radio DJ in Hawaii. Bless his heart, he just passed away a couple years ago, and he was a mentor to me. It was almost like my father to me. Um, when I was 16, I was dating a girl on Oahu, and I came to watch her perform at a competition, and he was the MC. And I sat with him while she was rehearsing, and we just talked story. And he's like, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Lanai." He's like, "I never been there. I'd love to go there." And I brought him over to MC our prom, one of our proms, and we became really good friends. And when I turned 17, I was graduating. I was an early graduate. I graduated early. I second day after graduation, I moved to Oahu. I went to visit him at the radio station. He was the first person I visited, and there was some job openings on the weekend. And I applied, and I got the gig. And it was just spinning records at the time. Wasn't even talking. And just so happened the holidays came around, and all the big bosses were out of town, and he says, "Hey, you want to fill in?" So I filled in, and it was like 12 midnight to 6. So I just started recording phone calls and putting people on the air, and started really becoming a wise ass. My whole stick was being a wise ass on the radio, and being sarcastic. And next thing you know, a year later, I get my own shift, and that's really when it started. I was 17 years old.
Oh, that's interesting. And you came up with some songs, right? Like Rice Rice Baby.
Yeah, I was at the time I started radio with Jimmy the Geek and Alan Oda, and those guys were awesome. They started in radio at the same time as me, and so well, the three of us had this energy of this is you got to understand there was no social media, so radio was social media. We had like 7 out of every 10 teens listening to us in the state of Hawaii. Some unbelievable number of ratings we had our first 10 years of doing it. And the three of us got together, and we started doing these parodies. This was pre Weird Al Yankovic, by the way. And we did a song called, the first song was called Me So Hungry, to the takeoff of Me So Horny. And it was big at the time. And then we did I'm a Filipino and Rice Rice Baby. Those 3 songs went national, believe it or not. They played all over the West Coast, I know for sure. And then like Guam and a few other places. And then we started touring and opening for different groups, and it was awesome. It was I felt like a rock star for a short little time. You know, I got a little taste of being a rock star for a little bit, but that really launched our careers. That doing the music part, the radio was big, but then doing the music just kind of catapulted everything.
Well, I remember those songs, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And how did you and Augie T connect and start?
So about 15, now maybe 10 years in, I'm hosting a show. Maybe less than that, about 7, 8 years in, I'm hosting a show. And Andy Bumatai comes up to me and says, "Hey, I got this comedian. He's a new guy. He's from Kalihi. He's really funny. If you have any space, like if you got to kill any time, let me know. I want him to do 5 minutes." I said, "Yeah, let's bring him up." So we brought him up. And that's the first time I met Augie. It was at the Dole Cannery, believe it or not. And it was a big prom fashion show. And because I was so popular with the teens, I was a teenager myself. I was so popular with the teens. I hosted every event you can think of that had a teenager involved. And he went up, he did his 5 minutes, he bombed. He didn't do well at all. We became really good friends. And then I would say about a year or two later, Andy was doing shows in Waikiki. They invited me to come down. Then I got hooked on stand-up comedy. They started teaching me, Andy, James Grant Benton and Augie started teaching me how to write comedy. And then I started doing my 3 minutes and my 5 minutes. And then I was hooked. And me and Augie became great friends. Next you know, there was a job opening at the station. And I already had moved my way up around this time. So I got him in and we started doing a night show together, 7 to midnight. And we just killed it. Well, him and our chemistry was just unbelievable.
Oh, you're right. I mean, you guys were absolutely incredible together. Such a great team.
Thank
And
you.
Lanai, I want to ask you about the Emmy Award, that you got. I mean, not too many people in the world can say that they're an Emmy Award winner, but you can for Ramen Yokocho. Can you tell me
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, it was really a surprise to me. I still can't believe I have one. And what's crazy is that we were nominated the year after 3 times for the same series. We didn't win any that year. So I've been nominated 4 times and then we won one. But it came about with a guy by the name of Frank Clark, who owns the first Yokocho outside of Hawaii. He built it. An agency came to me and said, "Hey, this company is looking at making commercials for each one of their shops in this yokocho." Yokocho means alley, by the way. There's thousands of yokochos in Japan, and you have all these old classic hole in the wall food, and the vibe at these places are just amazing if you've never been to Japan. And I said 14 or 15 of them, and I said we might as well make a TV show out of it. And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, we can feature the ramen ones for the first one, and we'll kind of give it a documentary feel so people will learn where Saimin came from and where ramen came from and what does it mean." Because it's so big here in Hawaii, and ramen was having a spotlight at the time. This is 3 years ago now, and it was just blowing up. So I wrote it. I got together with Yunji Denise, Andrew Tran, who's an amazing videographer. We got together because we were working on another project, and I said, "Hey, would you like to do this?" We hired a Emmy Award producer out of San Francisco by the name of Beverly Desposito. She's won like 3 Emmys, and we hired her to produce it. I helped write it with Yunji and Andrew and I directed it. Got a bunch of celebrities on it, and next thing you know, I get a call like 5 in the morning from Beverly, and she's like, "How does it feel to be an Emmy nominated host and producer?" And I was like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, you guys are nominated for an Emmy." And I was like, "Wow." So that's kind of how it started, and the rest is history. We shot 4 episodes for the series. We want to shoot a whole season, but then COVID hit. So hopefully we can raise enough money to finish the season because it's such a great show, and it's shot very well. And yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
No, you're so right, and so well deserving because what you did for that, I absolutely loved watching it. And
Oh,
Lanai,
thank you.
you're also the winner of the Great Food Truck Race. What
Yeah.
why were you guys able to get so many people out there supporting you?
Oh, the good old coconut wireless. Um, I had some really good friends in my corner that just knew people in every city that we went to, and which was shocking because the cities we went to I never knew, never heard of, or I've never been half of them. And it was just one of those things where we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know how it worked. We didn't know how to get in the groove of things till about the third week, because this is a 8 week process. You're on the road and you leave your family and your home and you're on cameras in your face for 6 hours. I mean, for 10 hours a day for 6 days a week. It was all new to us. I've done television forever, but never done a reality show. And the coconut wireless thing was pretty much called one person and say, "Hey, we're going to be selling food over here on the corner, and you're not allowed to say what you're doing. You can't say what it's for." And that person told three people, and it was like multi-level marketing. You show up, and there's 500 people from Hawaii waiting in line for your food truck. And I think it was timing was everything. It was people who came were homesick. They wanted to see other people from Hawaii, and it really changed my life. That whole year of doing it really changed my life as far as career goes. Because before that, right before the filming of that, about a year before that, I my whole career tanked, and my business life just tanked.
Well, Lanai, Aloha Plate. I mean, everybody in Hawaii was so happy for you guys to win that, and I heard that you would go in the line with
Yeah,
hundreds of customers waiting, and you would thank each person.
yeah. It was. I got chicken skin just you saying that. It was probably the most amazing and humbling thing that I've ever experienced, because you were going to places like Oregon and Idaho, and it was 40 degrees and raining, and people were standing in line for you for 2 hours, 3 hours waiting for you for the truck to show up. And then when you show up, you only got three people. My brother Adam and Sean were just amazing in the kitchen. And I would go out and do all the prep outside, get the truck ready and the plates and the drinks and all that. And then I would finish before them. So I would take the time while they were prepping to go down the line and thank everyone for coming. And I'll never forget this story. Um, I went down the line one day, and it was raining. It was like 40 degrees. I'm not exaggerating. We were in St. Paul, Minnesota. I didn't know anybody from Hawaii was gonna be in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I'm walking down the line, and this older lady says, "Hey, I just want to thank you for waiting and being patient. We're gonna open soon, and thank you for coming out. It's Saturday and it's raining, and we really appreciate you coming out." And she goes, "No, no, no. I want to thank you. I've been living here for 8, 10 years, and I never knew had this many Hawaiians here. And I want to thank you for bringing us all together." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you know how you're already homesick. You've been on the road for 5 weeks, and you never eat rice for for 5 weeks, and it's was a tough. It was grueling. That's why it wasn't something easy. You were up all day. You slept 3 hours, and you wake up at 5 in the morning, and you do it again. So that put the confirmation on why we were doing it. We were sharing aloha through our food. And it was really what our intention was. Our intention was to share aloha through our food. And our mother taught us that. She would always invite people in the house. Local people do that. I'm sure your mother did it, your grandparents did it. They would invite strangers into the house, and what do? You come eat. You break bread. That's what we do when people come visit us in Hawaii. What do? We take them go eat, we go to the beach, and we share all our foods with them. It really brings food and people together. Food brings people together, and that's all we did. That's what we focused on.
Well, Lanai, and you guys were featured on Good Morning America. I mean, you
Yeah,
guys are on that big video screen. I mean,
yeah.
how did that feel?
That was awesome. We that happened after we won. Um, they asked us. We signed a deal with Spam. Believe it or not, we were one of our stops was Minnesota, where Spam was invented, and we killed it with the Spam, and we left it on the menu throughout the race. We always had a Spam dish on the menu. It was natural for us to have it. And after we won, we did a tour with Spam, around America for about 3 years. So we did Good Morning LA, we did Good Morning San Diego, Good Morning America. We did all of them. We did all those shows, but that definitely was a big one. They flew us up to Times Square. It was cool because a lot of the teams that year were in New York at the time. So like the Frankfurters lived in New York. The Philly boys were not too far, and then you had Boardwalk Empire, which is another team that were in New York. So you had three of the teams, and somebody else was there too. So when we flew up, I called one of my friends and said, "Hey, I need 50 lays." And she's like, "What?" I said, What's going on?" I said, I'm taking it to New York." So we laid everybody. We laid everybody on in Good Morning America, the staff and everybody. And then at the end, we took a group picture. I wish I had it. We took a group picture with the cameraman, the sound guys. Everybody came out to take a picture. And the host, I remember her clearly saying, "This is the first time our whole staff has taken a group picture. It must be these flowers." And I said, "No, it's the aloha." And everybody got all excited. And I thought, what a great moment. And I don't even have that picture, but it's right here. So it was rewarding for me. That moment was very rewarding for me. Besides, of course, doing Good Morning America.
Well, I was very proud watching you on Good Morning America, and I watch you a
Awesome.
lot on your TV show, Cooking Hawaiian Style, and you've done that for many years now. And I want to ask you, Lanai, why is your Cooking Hawaiian Style show so successful?
I don't know. That's that's a good question, Rusty. Um, I think the success. We just shot season 15, and we do 2 seasons a year, so we're going on our 8th year now. I think the success is it's just real. It's Hawaii, and people want Hawaii. Everyone, who do you not know that doesn't like Hawaii? Everybody wants to come to Hawaii. Everybody loves the food in Hawaii. They love the people in Hawaii, and we try to express that. The whole goal was, how do we save all these recipes that our tutu didn't write down? How do we save these recipes that our parents never measured out? And that was really the focus of the show when we started it. So the only way to do that is to get local people on the show and get chefs that are grew up, on the plantation, and get local people who grew up on the plantation. And I think that's the success of it. That's the beauty of it. Um, it's hard to do. People don't realize we shoot 5 cameras. We have a crew of 18 people. We have a kitchen crew. We have a camera crew. We have sound, lighting. You know, Whenever we shoot this, it's not cheap. And I just get blown away every year. Our team sits together and we decide if we're going to do the next season. And we go, okay, we can do it because we raised the money. And every year I think it's my last because I don't know if we can raise the money again to do it again. And it's been really successful. We're now in 5 different countries. We're on a bunch of different networks like Mix TV, Lifestyle Network. We're on the Roku box now. Um, we're in talks with Hulu. We're on in New Zealand, Canada, Australia, Dubai, of all places. So it's really starting to pick up. And you say we've been doing it for a while, but it's really just started. Like anything else, like any business that you do or any relationship that you start, if you don't water it every day, it's not going to grow. And I've done many shows, as you know, I've done many shows, and I'm lucky if it gets past second or third season. Because one, people have to like it. Two, you have to raise the money for it. But this show, I think, because the intent that we put into it, the aloha that we put into it, it it's rewarding us to keep going, and I hope it keeps going. I hope people like it. I hope people still watch it. It's hard to determine if people watch it or not. I mean, you get stopped on the street every day, but that doesn't turn into money or that doesn't turn into ratings. You know what I mean? With so many things to watch these days, with so many different cooking shows, I'm just a grain of sand on a beach. So I'm just trying to chug, chug, chug.
Well, I definitely watch your show. And Lanai, in my books, I talk about mindset, and I talk about
Yeah.
how, setbacks are opportunities for comebacks. And you mentioned earlier that your life started to begin to tank. Can you share with me
Yeah.
some of the failures and setbacks that you dealt with?
There's so many, Rusty. And I'm not, yeah, and I'd love to share them with you. I think people always like to share their accomplishments. They never share what got you to those accomplishments. And I'm starting my career all over. People are like, why are you working so hard? My friends always say, why are you always working? I said, I'm starting my career all over. You have to rebuild and reinvent yourself. Look at Madonna. She has to reinvent herself every 10 years. It's I'm not Madonna, but my point is it's a constant grind. I before the Great Food Truck Race, I was at an all-time low. I went bankrupt. I lost 3 homes. I lost a girl. It was going through a lot of different things at that time. And it was one of those situations, and I got out of radio too, here locally. I still do radio in Japan, but I don't do it here locally. And it was a whole shift in my career of what am I going to do now? I've tried all these different things, but what am I going to do? And when you talk about the mindset, I really had to change my mindset because I was so used to this big paycheck, waking up every morning at 4 o'clock, doing my radio gig, doing gigs at night and doing comedy. That was my life for 25 years. So talk about changing your mindset. I was sitting in a hotel room doing a gig for Primo Beer in Los Angeles, California, and I just got let go from Clear Channel. Clear Channel Radio was the monster of radio stations. That's where we created Island 98.5, and I had to change my mindset because it was, what am I going to feel sorry for myself? Because it was only like the fourth day that this happened, and I'm sitting in the hotel room. When am I going to feel sorry for myself, or am I going to get off my ass, excuse me, and start doing all the things that I want to do and be my own boss? Because I always wanted to be my own boss. I don't like reporting to anybody. I want to do my own thing. And it was that day that I sulked for 4 days, and that was it. I said, I'm never going to sulk again. I'm never going to sit and think about what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do it. And that was from my mother. My mom said, you have to try everything before you figure out what you like. You can't just say, I'm going to go be a doctor. And then you find out 4 years into college, when you start dissecting people, you can't handle it. You know what I mean? Go and figure it out and go through everything you need to go through and try all the things that you're passionate about or you think that you love and see if you really love it. It's like test driving the car. You don't just buy it off the lot. You get in it, you drive it, you check it out, you look under the hood, and you make sure that that thing works. Make sure that you like it. So that's kind of where my mindset was at, and it still is today. I have so many failures. I've going back to your question. The bankruptcy, losing homes. Um, I've I've probably produced and written 3 or 4 shows that didn't take off. 3 or 4 shows I've done in the last 10 years that went 1 or 2 seasons that are no longer on the air. Um, all kinds of business ventures I've tried. I've invested a lot of money into different things and lost it. And I always thought, if it doesn't work, I got to go make more money. I got to do it again because I know how to make money. Now, keeping it is the hard part. Staying on top is the hard part. So I'm learning. I'm learning. I'm still grinding and still reinventing myself.
Lanai, what I really admire about you is, you've tried, like you said, all of these things, and it's so good that you know that you've tried it rather than wondering, "Ooh, I should have tried it," or
Yes.
what would happen if I
Yes.
were to have done this and that, and
That is so, Rusty, that's the key thing right there. How many people do you know talk about what they're gonna do, or I should have done, or man, if I'd done that 10 years ago, man, if I would have invested in Bitcoin 20 years ago, all the would have, should haves for me, I don't like those. So I just do it. I just try it. That's
that's
the
why
key.
that's why you're Lanai, and that's why you're successful, and you made a great comeback, Lanai. And I want to thank you for taking time to be on the show today.
Oh, thank you. And hey, congratulations to everything you're doing and your books. I just finished my book, so you inspired me to finish it. Um, I can't wait till it comes out. I'm hopefully going to release it in September. And congratulations on everything you're doing, and keep inspiring.
Well, thank you, Lanai, and I'll look forward to seeing that book. And thank you for watching Beyond the Lines on ThinkTech Hawaii. For more information, please visit rustykomori.com, and my books are available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. I hope that Lanai and I will inspire you to create your own superior culture of excellence and to find your greatness and help others find theirs. Aloha.